Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Lauren, and I will be walking you through just a short stretching routine. This is more or less the routine that I have been doing about every day for a few months now. It's mostly just for your spine, hips, legs, so it's just sort of a lower body stretching routine. Um, you don't need to be warmed up. You can do this first thing in the morning, late at night, whatever. This is just a little stretching routine that I do. It makes me feel good, so I was just going to share it. So you don't need anything, but we're going to be on our backs the whole time. So patting under your head, making yourself comfortable, whatever you need to do that. So we're going to start on our backs. We'll be on our backs again throughout the entire routine, because this is the way I like to stretch. Comfortable. Okay. So coming down into your back, we'll start in constructive resting pose. Feet at the edges of the mat, let the knees knock in. Maybe bring your hands to your belly, and I always like to start with just a few deep breaths, just a little bit of centering. So just some deep breaths. Maybe it's belly breathing, maybe it's something else. Let's take a few deep breaths here. And we'll continue taking a few more deep breaths. But let's add another layer to that centering technique. Now, this is something that I learned from Judith Lassiter, a worldwide known yoga instructor who specializes in restorative yoga and really relaxing and calming everything down, which is good. And something that she suggests is when you breathe, imagine being able to breathe in the center of your brain. So not even necessarily right here at your third eye, but deep in the center of your brain. If you could imagine where the very center, the core of your brain is. Can you bring your attention there to that center core space in your skull, in your brain? And can you imagine breathing there? Can you draw your attention to the core of your skull, to the center of your brain? And imagine breathing there, sending your energy there. Let's take 3 deep breaths doing that. And then you can just breathe naturally. Okay. All right. So we'll start with a little bit of movement. I always like my arms either out in opposite directions or maybe just alongside the body, but palms up. I like to bring my feet and knees together for this one and just let the knees sway side to side. Okay. Now, all of these movements in this stretching routine are going to be very familiar to you if you have been a student of mine for even probably just a little bit, because these are all the movements that feel not only really good in my body, but I find that feel good in other students' bodies, and also tend to focus on spaces that are often very tight on the average body. So nothing in this routine is new. All of these things you will have probably seen before, either from me or from another teacher. Nothing we're about to do is super unique or wild or brand new. And that's okay. Doesn't need to be. So really, I'm just taking the warm-up from a typical yoga class that I would teach and some of the stretches I would use to cool down, and I'm just doing those. I'm sort of cutting out all the work in the middle and just doing the relaxing, comfortable stuff. And so know that you can do that, with the exception of in sometimes, especially vinyasa classes, towards the end of the practice, we get into some poses that are really deep, and we're saving those poses for the end because we're so warmed up. So those poses aren't really appropriate to do on their own. But if you take the end of, a gentle class or even a slow flow class, those poses that you take, you can put them at the end of a stretching routine and have yourself some good stretches. I always like to start not only just with my own body, but in students, I always like to start dynamic. And so we're moving, going back and forth, right to left, with the breath, fluid motions. I always like to start with dynamic stuff and then work our way up to static, to holding it still. And that's what we're gonna do today. It's no different here. We're gonna stay a little bit longer. So as you're letting your legs sway from side to side, imagine that they are floating. Imagine that they are moving in a very effortless way from side to side. And your upper body is heavy. The back of your head, the back of your skull is heavy on the ground. Backs of the shoulders, backs of the arms, melting into the mat because they're relaxed. They've released any tension. And now here what we're doing, the intention is we're twisting through the spine and we're focusing on warming up your lower back. So notice how this feels. We'll stay just a little bit longer. Okay, let your legs go to each side one more time. Okay, then we'll return to the center and walk the feet out wide to about mat distance apart. Toes are still forward. Upper body's still relaxed. All right, we'll focus on the internal rotation. So you're gonna keep one leg still as the other one rolls towards the big toe side of the foot, like you're trying to get your inner thigh to touch the mat. It won't touch, it really won't even come that close, that's all right. But inner thigh towards the mat, rolling to the big toe side of the foot, and then slowly return it back up, kneecap to the sky, and switch sides. So just letting one leg drop down and in, again, like you're getting your inner thigh toward the mat. Rolling towards the big toe side of the foot. Pinky toe side will probably lift up off the ground. And now the focus is your hip. This is internal rotation in your hip joint. So you're gonna feel this deep in your hip joint and your groin, this internal rotation, sort of along the lines of maybe you might feel this through your hip flexor, through the quads, through the tops of the thigh. And if you're not feeling enough, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't feel any of that, make sure as one leg is moving, keep the other one still. So if both legs are moving, one hip really isn't getting a stretch because they're both moving together. If we can anchor one, then the stretch can become a little bit deeper. So that's something to keep in mind. And if you're still not feeling anything, maybe you've got longer legs, or maybe your hips are a little more open. Maybe instead of having your feet on the edges of the mat, maybe you walk them even a little bit wider and your feet are just off your mat. So then it'll feel a little different. But again, it's the same idea. Let your legs feel as if they are floating. Not a whole lot of effort here. Not a whole lot of force. Your upper body is soft, relaxed, and free of tension, and your legs are moving in a smooth, fluid, comfortable way, getting into that hip joint. Let's do this just a couple more times. Let's do this one more time with each leg. Okay. All right, now let's bring the feet back to hip distance apart. So we did the lower back, and we did the hips. Now let's do the hamstrings, the backs of the legs. So take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, hug your right thigh in towards your belly. Hold on to the back of your thigh as opposed to the top of your shin. Okay. Now, something to think about when you're stretching, every once in a while I encourage you to start with the left leg. I actually, in my own practice, always start with my left leg. I just sort of, for a moment got into teacher mode and I told you right, but when I'm on my own, I make a point to probably start with my left at least 75% of the time, because you probably start with your right 99% of the time, typically, right? So every once in a while switch which one you start with. We're gonna do both, but just switching which one you start with. Okay, so there's a few different ways to do this action, and typically when I've taught this in the past, I cue students to draw the thigh all the way in towards the belly, all the way in towards the ribs, and keep it there, and then add the movement. What I've been playing with in my own body is allowing my arms to be straight and my thigh almost as far away from my ribs as I can while keeping my hands clasped. Now this is because of my own body. I've had a lot of injuries flare up in 2020. Thank you, 2020. So I've had a lot of lower body injuries happen, and so that adjustment has made the world of a difference for me. So all that to say, you might hug your thigh in and create the movement there. You might have your thigh a little bit farther away from you, create the movement there. Doesn't matter to me, you choose the one that feels good. Maybe you flip-flop and you rotate. You know, sometimes you do it one way, sometimes you do it the other way. But think about it that way. All right, I'm gonna have my thigh away from me because that feels better for me, but you do what you need. You're gonna relax your arms, relax your shoulders, let the back of your head feel heavy on the ground. Now as you inhale, reach your right foot up towards the ceiling, lengthen the leg. Exhale, bend the knee, let the heel come down towards the back of the thigh. We're gonna keep moving. Inhale, lengthen the leg up, foot to the sky. Exhale, bend at the knee. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bend. Now we're gonna stay here for a while. So your hands are interlaced, your fingers are interlaced, hands are clasped. But can you release and relax a little bit in your hands, wrists and forearms, to soften the arms? The focus is the legs. Again, the intention here is your hamstrings, the back of your thigh. You might feel this by your seat. You might feel it in the back of the thigh. You might feel it in the back of the knee. Now, hugging the thigh into the ribs versus allowing it to be a little bit farther away is going to probably change where you're feeling it. So again, you're gonna feel it in the back of your leg somewhere, but depending on how close your thigh is towards your belly, you might feel it more by the knee, you might feel it more by the seat, you might feel it more sort of just in between, along the meaty part of the hamstrings. So that's gonna change. So again, kind of varying that if you have that available to you, which I do not some days, is gonna be helpful. So play around with that. And your right leg, let it just relax. I'm sorry, your right foot, the ankle and foot, let it just relax. Let's do this just a few more times, just a couple more on this right leg. Relax the shoulders, relax the arms. Notice this feeling in the back of the right leg. And now the next time you bend your right knee, let it stay there. Keep holding onto the back of the right thigh. Let's bend the right knee, let the right foot, we're gonna focus on the right foot. So point and flex the right foot. Point and flex very strongly. Notice that feeling through the ankle, the calf, the shin. Point and flex a few more times. And then do some ankle circles. Pick one direction, stay with it. For maybe about 5 or so rotations. And then reverse, about 5 here. And then keep your ankle still, keep your heel still. Spread your toes out wide and then crunch them in tightly, like you're making a fist with your foot. Spread your toes out wide, crunch them in tightly. Again, about maybe 5 or so. Really feeling this through the foot itself. Okay, and then you can let your foot relax. Slowly release your hands from your thigh and let your right foot come back down onto the ground. Knees bent, feet flat, arms resting. Just take a few breaths. Notice how you feel. All right, take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, hug the left thigh in towards your belly. Hold on to the back of the thigh instead of the shin. Now here, Something else to think about. When you grab onto the back of the second leg, whether it's your right or your left, can you change the interlace of your fingers? Okay. And again, you can hug that thigh all the way in and keep it here, or you can draw it away. But wherever you put your thigh, I want it to stay there. I want it to stay in the same spot throughout this whole action. The whole leg shouldn't be moving, just the lower part of the leg. So choose where you want your thigh to be, relax your shoulders, and then inhale, lengthen the leg, left foot to the sky. Exhale, bend at the knee, let the heel drop down towards the back of the thigh. Inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, bend the knee. Now again, left foot is fairly relaxed here. It could be pointed, it could be flexed, but we're gonna do that in a few moments. So I just like to let the foot relax. And again, soften your hands, your wrists, your forearms, your shoulders as best as you can. Make this about your leg. Notice what you're feeling in the back of the left leg. Again, hugging that leg in versus allowing it to be a little bit farther away is going to change exactly where you feel it in your hamstrings. Either way, you are stretching your hamstrings. Your hamstrings are lengthening and working and warming up as we do this, no matter what. But it's a little more nuanced, or I should say, we're drawing it in versus releasing it. There's a nuanced sensation that'll happen. And so you can kind of play with that. Let's do a few more. And for all of these, I also want to make this clear. Every single movement, whether it's dynamic or static, you can hold or do any of these for as long as you'd like. This is what feels good for me, and this is then what I also usually teach, doing these for about all of these movements, doing them for about as long as I'm doing them, which I'm not looking at a clock. When I feel like I've had enough, and I move on. But you can do all of these for twice as long, half as long, whatever you need, really. Okay, let's do just a couple more of these. Keep relaxing your shoulders. I feel like mine keep hiking up. Do one more. And then keep holding onto the thigh, but let the knee bend, let the heel drop down towards the back of the thigh. Let's move the foot. Point and flex the foot. Strongly point, strongly flex. Again, maybe about 5 of these. Maybe you do 10 of each. Maybe it's just 3 of each, whatever you need. And then do some ankle circles. Again, I like to start with maybe 5 in one direction, something like that. And then reverse. And then the ankle and heel will be still, but spread your toes out wide, reach them out away from each other, crunch them in tight, make a fist with your foot. Spread your toes out wide, crunch them in tight. A few more. So for these, all of these, but especially this one, I only used to be able to do 3 to 5 of each because these are kind of tiring. My foot kind of like really feels it. But after doing all this every day, now it's comfortable to do like maybe even more than 10. So again, just sort of notice, remember that all of this is supposed to feel good. So if you're feeling like this is too much, move on to the next thing. That's all right. Okay, now relax your foot. And then slowly release your hands from your thigh. Let your left foot come back down. Both feet flat on the ground. Just let your arms rest. Take a few breaths. Notice how you feel. Okay. All right. We're going to take 2 more poses. Here's where we're going to do some static stretches. So I'm going to go back to my right leg. I'm going to bring my right ankle to the top of my left thigh. We're going to take figure 4. Softly flex the right foot to protect the right knee. You can stay here. You can bring your right hand to your right thigh and draw your right thigh away from your face, away from your torso, towards the top of your mat. Or maybe you bring both hands to the back of your left thigh and hug your left thigh in towards your belly. Maybe you hold on to the back of the left thigh. Maybe you hold on to the front of the left shin. Either way, flex your left foot to protect your left knee. And now relax your shoulders. Soften your arms. Now this is a static stretch. We're going to stay still for a while. Now, when you hold a static stretch like this, after you've already warmed up, after you've already done like the stuff we did, you want to hold it for at least 30 seconds. Again, I'm not looking at a clock, I'm just going to sort of guesstimate. But at least 30 seconds, if not closer to 60. But again, you could be here even longer if it feels good. Something you could do is if you practice this up against the wall, you could put your left foot up against the wall, and then you don't even have to use your arms. That's another option. If this feels really good to stay for a while, you've got options. But have a soft flex in each foot. I just got a package, sorry. This happened recently too. That was another package. I'm not going to stores these days, so I gotta buy everything online. Okay, it's the responsible thing to do, I like to think. Okay, relax your shoulders, soften your arms. We'll take maybe 3 more deep breaths here. Okay. Now keep your legs as they are, but release your arms. Let your left foot come all the way back down into the ground. Now I like to just go right into the next stretch, which is a twist. So I'm gonna cross my right leg all the way over to the left, so thighs are together and touching. Scoot your hips over to the right a few inches and let the legs fall over to the left. Now you know, you don't have to cross the legs, you don't have to scoot the hips. You could take lots of different variations. The one I've been actually taking mostly is either this one or lengthening the right leg, like my right toes are reaching for the wall behind me. Now here what you want to do is make sure that your right shoulder is on the ground. So that shoulder should be on the ground. And maybe you keep your neck in neutral, maybe you turn and look over your right shoulder. But same thing, we're going to stay for about a minute. Let the back side of your body relax. Let everything rest. Can you check in with your breath? Can you notice your breath? Maybe noticing how smooth, how steady your breath is. Notice how soft and how effortless your breath is. And let's take 3 more breaths right here. If your head is turned, slowly return your head to the center. Now, what I like to do, if my right leg is long, I like to come out of this pose a little differently. If my right knee was bent and my legs were still sort of intertwined, I would just slowly return them to the center, uncross, recenter the hips. But if my right leg is long, if it is lengthened, I like to keep my right foot on the ground and I drag it around, almost so it sort of makes this semicircle. So it comes back down towards my mat, and then I can recenter my hips, bend that right knee again, and then everything comes back to the center. But however you get here, come back, knees bent, feet flat. Let's take about 2 breaths here. Okay. All right. Figure 4. Bring the left ankle to the top of the right thigh. And again, here's another opportunity. Switch every once in a while with what leg you're starting with. Okay, flex your left foot. You might stay here. You might bring your left hand to the top of your left thigh and draw it away from your torso, away from your face. You might bring both hands to the back of your right thigh or your right shin and hug your right leg in towards you. If your right foot comes up off the ground, softly flex that foot to protect the knee. And then settle in. Again, we're going to be here for about a minute. Again, I'm not looking at the clock. You might be, and this might be way longer than a minute, but that's okay. It's okay to be here longer. And of course, if these don't feel good to be here that long, you don't have to do it. Okay. Also, something else I like to do with these last few movements we've done is sometimes I will pick a leg and do all of the stuff on one leg and then all of the stuff on the other. But sometimes I go back and forth, right, left, right, left, right, left. Just variety. Variety is the key to life, isn't that what they say? So even here, even in your yoga practice, even in your stretching, I do a lot of the same stretches every day. Day to day, I am doing almost all of the exact same stretches, but I do them in different orders. I might take different variations. So there's nothing wrong with that. Your stretching routine, if you have one, doesn't have to be brand new every day. Ideally, you would kind of rotate some stuff in and out. But if it's stressful to come up with a routine, if it takes too much energy and exertion to just think of something, just move. Even if it's the same way you moved yesterday, that's okay. All right, let's stay here for just a few more breaths. Let's take 3 deep breaths here. All right. Now slowly release your hands, let your right foot come back down onto the ground. Now again, you don't have to cross the left leg over, but maybe you cross the left leg over, bring the thighs together. Scoot the hips over to the left a few inches and let the legs fall to the right. Now again, you might stay like this, you might uncross the legs, you might lengthen your left leg. Like the bottom of your foot is now facing the right side of the room. It's like your right toes are sort of reaching towards the wall behind you, same direction the crown of your head is facing. But what we want to do is make sure that the left shoulder is down on the ground and that you're feeling a comfortable stretch. Now I really want everything to feel comfortable, to feel relaxed in a very effortless way. So notice here, something that happens for me is that I notice that my inner thighs like to squeeze in this pose. They don't need to. They do not need to. So let them relax. Try to avoid any squeezing, tightness, or tension that's building. And can you release it? Can you soften it? Can you let go? And again, maybe you turn at your head, look over to the left, but again, make sure the right shoulder's down. Come back to your breath. Notice your breath. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And then if your head is turned, slowly return your head to the center. Now again, when my left leg is long, I come out of it a little different. If my knee was bent and both knees were bent, I would just return the legs to the center, recenter the hips. But what I like to do with the left leg long, I like to keep the left foot on the ground. At least I can feel like sort of the ball mount on my foot, like just the inner, just a little bit of my foot's on the ground, not a lot. I keep it on the ground, I drag it all around, so it sort of makes this semicircle, comes back onto my mat, and then I bend the knee, return the hips. Come back to a neutral spine. Let's take 3 breaths here. Okay, and then from here, roll over onto either side in a tucked fetal position, resting your ear on your arm to support your head and neck. Take a few breaths here. Okay, using the strength of your arms, push down into the ground, come up. Okay. So that was it. That's my routine. That actually was most of it. I did actually look at the clock at one point and realize how long it was. I was trying to make a short video. I actually cut some stuff out. My routine, my daily routine is actually a little longer. I can make more short videos, but this is a good video, or this is a good, I'm sorry. This is such a good video. I didn't mean that. This is a good routine to do throughout the day. I do most of this before I go for a walk, so I'm nice and warmed up when I walk, and then I feel really good on my walk. But again, I've got some injuries that can flare up when I'm walking, and then I do the routine when I get back from walking, and then sometimes I do it before bed, especially the calmer, relaxing stuff. So try it out, take pieces of it, cut it in half, double it, whatever you need to do. Just be moving, just take care of yourself, and thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.